The Fix Liberty podcast is presented by the Fix Liberty Project, where we explore the fundamental principles of liberty and morality upon which a free society stands and thrives. Learn more and sign up for our free weekly email newsletter at fixliberty.com.
Hello and welcome to the Fix Liberty Podcast. Today is July 8th, 2023. I'm your host, Ross Brown. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show today. Last summer, my family and I took a 2-week road trip from Wisconsin to the East Coast of the United States and back. On the second day of that road trip, the United States Supreme Court overruled Roe versus Wade and ended federal access to legal abortion for women across America. Now, I had a lot of time to think about the issue on that road trip. I was driving for 2,700 miles and about 50 hours of drive time. And last summer, I wrote 4 posts at the Fix Liberty Project in which I shared my reflections on the subject. That said, those posts predated the Fix Liberty Podcast, so I've never shared them here. 1 year later, my reflections on abortion, life, individual liberty, sex, marriage, equal culpability, political liberty, dehumanization, and exceptional cases remain relevant to our national conversation. So this summer, in 2023, I am recording and publishing my thoughts in podcast format for the first time in a 4-part miniseries called 1 Year Later, Reflections on Abortion in the Fall of Roe. This is episode 1 of 4, in which I will share my thoughts as originally published at the Fix Liberty Project on June 25th, 2022. You can find the original post in the show notes for this episode. Roe versus Wade is overruled by the United States Supreme Court. I am a Christian and a classical liberal, so I am unabashedly pro-life. As the first unalienable right listed in America's Declaration of Independence, the moral case for life is self-evident. And it makes sense that Thomas Jefferson listed it first. Without life, a person can have neither liberty nor the opportunity to pursue happiness. Furthermore, individual liberty is always constrained by a qualifier. Individual liberty empowers us to live life as we see fit, so long as we do not actively hurt anyone else in the process. Abortion actively ends the life of an unborn person. It is, therefore, wholly antithetical to the notion of individual liberty. Viability matters not. No one has a right to kill a non-viable unborn person any more than they have the right to kill a non-viable born person who is surviving on life support. So, on moral grounds, I am happy to see Roe fall. Yet Roe fell not on moral grounds, but on legal ones. As described in the majority opinions, the legal case for Roe was weak and reaching. As a classical liberal, I support constitutional government, the rule of law, and the division of power. On constitutional grounds, therefore, I am also happy to see Roe fall. Now, I encourage you to read the majority and the dissenting opinions from our Supreme Court justices. There are a total of 5 opinions. 1 majority opinion of the court, 3 opinions concurring with the majority opinion, and 1 dissenting opinion. In total, the opinions are 213 pages long. I have not read them in entirety, but I have read some of each of them to gain an understanding of their considerations. Now, not surprisingly, I agree with the rationale of the majority opinions. I particularly appreciate the court's courage to right a wrong from its past, much in the same way it did when Brown v. Board of Education overruled Plessy v. Ferguson and ended legal segregation in America's public schools. I also appreciate this court's active deferral to legislatures on the subject of abortion. Federal law is now neutral on the topic of abortion. As it is written, the Constitution neither protects nor outlaws abortion in America. Legislatures, accountable to we the people, are now once again responsible for crafting abortion law, and rightfully so. My take on the dissenting opinion is that it attempts to retain powers within courts which are rightfully delegated to separate legislatures. While undertaking such attempts, the dissent also wholly ignores the unalienable rights of unborn persons. The Fall of Roe does not outlaw abortion in America. It merely returns abortion law back to the states and the people. So our cultural debate about abortion only intensifies as a result of this ruling. What should come next? Lots of questions. To be blunt, abortion comes after sex. So we are right, first and foremost, to ask questions about sex in contemporary American culture. Here are a few on my mind. How do we approach sex in American culture today? How should we approach it? 60 years on, did the sexual revolution of the 1960s produce good fruit? Has it delivered on its promise of liberation in the long run? Are the risks and benefits of sex without marital commitment equal between men and women? On average, does sex or the expectation of sex without marital commitment create social good or social harm? Has the sexual revolution naturally led to the Me Too movement of today? What does God, as the creator of sex, have to say about sex in the Bible? Why does God limit the goodness of sex to the confines of marriage? And finally, who is more likely to suffer when children are born out of wedlock, men or women? But we are right, of course, to also consider questions beyond these. Here are a few more questions immediately on my mind. What does it mean to be pro-life versus anti-abortion? What drives demand for abortion? how might we lessen demand for abortion by making alternatives to abortion more attractive? It takes two people to make a baby. How can men be held equally accountable in life, financially and otherwise, when an unwanted pregnancy occurs? And finally, why is adoption so dang difficult and expensive in America? How can we make it easier and cheaper? We the people will perpetually debate answers and implications to endless questions like these. For Christians and classical liberals like me, the fall of Roe is a step in the right direction on both moral and constitutional grounds, but now the real work begins. If we are pro-life and not merely anti-abortion, the time has come to prove it. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Fixed Liberty Podcast. I'll see you next time.